has to email.
Yeah, that. To start our meeting, I'd like to ask Representative Cantrell if he would please open with prayer.
Together. Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to be together this afternoon to do the business of the people of this great state. And Lord, we do call on you now to give us great wisdom as we act on behalf of Georgians. I pray that we would know the right thing to do and have the courage to do it. And so grant our chairman great wisdom as he leads us. And we trust that you'll guide us during this time. In Christ's name, amen.
As I always do, let's see, someone wants to make a comment. Number 25, who is that? Right there. All right, Representative Nix.
I wanted to tell Representative Cantrell he needed to pray for forgiveness for our chairman for calling this meeting.
Dear God, would you please see that Randy is taking... I want to say this, that I was going to apologize for this, but I'm not going to do it now. I want y'all to know that in my office this afternoon, I had a delegation come to meet me and said that if I were not careful, I would be visited again. But from now on, it'll be done electronically. We're going to talk to you about that. Yes, sir.
The next guy's coming to get the kneecaps.
That's right. He got the kneecaps. All right. I apologize. Yeah. Okay. What I'd like to do, anyone from the audience, any teachers, as I always do, would you stand and tell us where you are from? Teachers? Lovely retired teachers. What school systems were you with? Decatur. Well, wonderful. We're glad y'all are with us. You've earned you from Decatur also? Well, wonderful. Thank y'all so much for visiting us. And the rest of you, most of you we know. So we're going to go. What I want to do, because we're going to be here just a few minutes today, not going to be here that long, because we're going to sign bills, but I've asked Representative Tanner if he would, because I've had lots of questions from you about the legislation we're working on for the Fayette schools. So if you would, Representative Chairman Tanner, what's your number, and I'll call on you. If you'd bring us up to date where we are, and then we'll be through.
Well, I appreciate that, and appreciate the representatives here from the Department of Education. I've worked closely with them and School Board Association, superintendents, and others in the room. We've been working on this for quite a few months now, working with the governor's office and our counterparts in the Senate, in trying to develop a piece of legislation, as you know, Mr. Chairman, that will try to address some of our low-performing schools in the state. We have Legislative Council working on an updated draft. We've had numerous meetings with the governor's policy staff. You and I both met with the lieutenant governor for, I guess, almost 2 hours yesterday afternoon talking about this issue. So everyone's engaged, and we hope that we will have an updated draft on Tuesday when we come back into session, and then be able to move forward with getting a piece of legislation introduced next week. And overall, we're looking at building on the existing law that's in place and working with these schools, but having local control with accountability and trying to improve our local schools. And we think we're on the right track to being able to build a good level of consensus among those of us in the House, both in the majority and minority party, and also working very closely with school board associations and superintendents and others to get their support also. That's our goal, and we're trying to start from a place of consensus. And next week we'll be having some additional meetings to try to do that.
I think I want you to know that he's worked very hard, and he's a lot of negotiations, and all of you in the audience, he's talked with a lot of the groups out there, and we'll assure you as soon as we have something, you will, is that right, Chairman? We will have you involved, and I want to assure this committee now, I want to remind everyone, this is very important. When we're ready to drop the bill, I've had several Chairman who said they wanted to sign it. You will be given the opportunity to sign on to the legislation. You will receive a copy of it, and we're asking everyone to talk with Chairman Tanner, read it, discuss it, because this is one bill we're going to spend a lot of time on, and we're going to take up in the full committee. And it's not going to a subcommittee, as we typically have done. All testimony will be done with full committee, and will be done on our Thursday meetings. So we anticipate maybe dropping it. We don't know, maybe next week or the next, right?
Yeah, hopefully next week, once we get the updated draft, we're going to want to meet back with the governor's office and with the lieutenant governor and his staff to try to vet that. And our hope is we can get something that both us and the Senate can agree to. But if not, we'll move forward with the piece of legislation that we feel good about, and hopefully this committee feels good about, and we'll move it forward through the House and work with the Senate.
Very good.
Thank you.
Most of you on this committee, and I appreciate this, signed the second piece of legislation that's traveling with this, and that is the tax credit piece. And I hope you were able to understand what you were signing, and you knew what. But this piece is the piece that's a $15 million tax credit, $1,000 deduction for individuals, $2,500 for couples, $10,000 corporations. It's a tax credit that will be used. This money will go to the office of the Governor's Office of Student Achievement. They will have it in the form of grants to not only the failing schools, but any school that would like to do an innovative, creative project in reading, especially math, also looking at leadership, looking at literacy, at developing state-of-the-art programs to try to implement that we can share with these failing schools. So I think it's exciting times. I think there's some good stuff happening. Don't you, Chairman Chan? I think it really looks good. But remember, everything is still local control, no takeover. It's all local control, working with existing schools within existing laws. So I thank you for signing that. We had almost 90 signatures on that piece of legislation. I appreciate it. It was dropped today, so you'll be hearing that, and I'll be providing each of you with talking points next week, 18 talking points from that piece. So those are the two pieces we'll take up in full committee, and they will be done we'll start the tax credit next week. That'll be in Ways and Means, but talking about that, but you'll have the talking points where you'll know about it. Any questions? I have one, 28. All right. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Carter, I haven't seen the bill, but
none of us have yet. Yeah,
the tax credit one, and I think what I just heard you say is it will be in the form of a grant. However, it will be open to all schools, not
all
only
schools.
Low performance. So with that, it brings me a little concern. Is that how do we ensure that the low performing schools, the ones that have been identified that really need the help, how do we ensure that they take advantage of?
That'll be in the rules and regulations from the Office of Student Achievement. She's already doing that with some grant money, and that will be in the specifications of the piece of legislation. Yes,
so
ma'am.
they'll have first.
Oh yeah, they can apply
dibs.
for it and get it, and everything is aimed at trying to help improve reading, math, leadership, literacy.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if it's open to all the schools
Mm-hmm.
and it's a limited amount of funds, how do we ensure that the schools that have
Top
been
priority,
identified?
top
Okay.
priority.
Thank you.
Top priority failing schools. Now you got to realize some of the failing schools might not want to participate, so we may want to try to help develop something to help show them what can be done. Right. Top priority. Yes, ma'am. That's a good question. All right. It's 15.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recognize that measure will be debated in Ways and Means, not here. But,
Yes, sir.
but could I point out, isn't it, and I don't mean to speak for you, but it was certainly my take on looking at that legislation. Your desire was to create innovation. And so if we can create innovation, whether that is in a low-performing school or even in a very high-performing
yes.
school, that kind of innovation can be duplicated and shared with other schools.
That's a great point. To answer your question, that's exactly right. A school that's doing real well, high performing, could get one of these grants, develop something, and then say we want to, because that's the point. It's not continuation money, but we've developed something and want to share this with all schools. That's exactly right. Number 13? Yes.
Yes, and I think it's a good opportunity because I know the governor's office already has the innovation grant that a lot of schools are taking advantage of. And then this being able for the local citizens to be able to participate in with donating additional money, so that makes the opportunity. And to the point with Representative Carter, made, a lot of times that I found, even when I asked the question about the innovation grant that's out there, a lot of our low performing schools are not applying for that money. And so there's going to, ownership for everybody to take and making sure that we're going back to our communities where those schools are not performing and encouraging them to apply for the money, because if they don't apply, the money is sitting there, so you can't make it, and then you have other schools that are taking advantage of it. So you don't want to penalize them for being creative and wanting to apply for it. So whatever opportunity we can provide to help encourage those schools to apply, I think would be really good.
And I think that's point. And when you see, ladies and gentlemen, just wait till you see the legislation that's coming out. Reverend Chairman, and I think it will show how they will want to. Is that correct?
I think so.
Just wait till you see both pieces together. Just stick with us. All right. 18.
Wait, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now, that's all on that topic. Any other questions? Okay. Now, this time we'll let you out of here. I'd like to ask our Vice Chair to assign legislation, and then we have a couple of announcements. Also, Representative Cassis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a few pieces of legislation that have come to us. House Bill 139 by Representative Belton. It's to provide transparency of financial information of local school systems and schools. That's assigned to the full committee, so the full committee will be taking up that piece of legislation. And the reason for that is that this bill was vetted already by this committee. It had passed the House, it also passed the Senate, but it's one of those bills that faced the veto pen, as I understand it, right, Representative Belton? So we have vetted it before, and so we're just going to take it up in full committee. Next is House Bill 148 by Representative Glanton. This is Educating Children of Military Families Act, and this bill has been assigned to innovation and workforce development. House Bill 170 is the Student Online Personal Information Protection Act by Representative Jones. This one has been assigned to the administration subcommittee. House Bill 178 by Representative Belton. It's funding for school counselors for military students. This bill has been assigned to the K-12 subcommittee. House Bill 198 by Representative Dempsey. This bill is influenza vaccine, or to provide information for influenza vaccines. That has been assigned to the administration subcommittee. And House Bill 200 by Representative Newton. It's to adopt policies authorizing students to carry and self-administer sunscreen. This bill is being assigned to the Administration and Policy Subcommittee. And those are all the bills that have been assigned thus far.
Mr. Chairman, one thing we want to remind Chairman and committee members, we pass no unfunded mandates. If you have a bill that requires any funds, my friend over here will be glad to discuss this with you, but isn't that correct, Chairman Dick? If in other words, no bill will be allowed. If there are any cost at all, it's your responsibility to contact a member of this committee right over here and talk with him about the money, because we will not even hear it if there's a cost. So unless it's in the budget, isn't that correct? That's a good point. Yes, sir, that's right. And another thing that we want to be sure that you have that understanding before we go in front. And it's important for you to come to these subcommittee meetings, because that's where all the debates take place. You have your input as long as you want, vet it, talk about it. But when we come back, the only discussions that will be allowed will be between the chair of that subcommittee and the members of this committee, unless something we're doing new this year, that chair feels they need to bring someone to give some testimony that will help us understand the bill better. So those are two things to understand, because there's a lot of, I see a lot of this legislation going to cost a lot of money, don't you? And I think so, okay. And you had another thing you want to talk about.
I do, Mr. Chairman. I don't want everyone going out and getting a cup that I have sitting on my desk that says yet another meeting that could have been in an email. And so you're going to be receiving a form that's going to ask you, as you've had for other committees, to update your best email address. And whenever we have meetings that only require assignment of bills, we're just going to let you know by email and not have to call a meeting for that reason. And so you will be receiving this form if you haven't done so already. You will be receiving. Please fill it out so we can stay in communications with you. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Amen. And isn't this true, Mr. Chairman? You may want to talk about that, because some people seem to want to do some urgent bills, but they need to be in the form of resolutions. So you want to comment on that?
Certainly. Ditto.
Isn't that great? No, many times, and the Senate really likes to do that. They send the bills over, but we encourage anything urging like that, urging the state board to do da, 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 da. We're going to make it a law. We put that in the form of a resolution. And we urge you, we encourage you, so remember that. Anything
I got
else?
one more thing. Subcommittees will start meeting next week, and we'll be, please keep an eye out for those notices. And we're going to try very hard to make sure that we're squeezing it in a place where it's not conflicting with you. So we're going to try, and that's the best we can do.
And I want to thank the leader for the new calendar, because I was getting nervous. If we were going to be off every Friday, I was going to be criticized every single Thursday. So now we're out on Monday, so I expect you to be here on Thursdays. They worked it out real well, so that won't be such a problem. One thing I want to comment, Representative Pam Dixon Lopez, there has been a subcommittee appointed by Leader Abram, Minority Leader Abram, and their 2 members, and your 3rd member is represented as Chairman Hughley, I think, Representative Hughley, and they're meeting with Chairman Tanner to go over. That's something we want to do, to vet this bill real carefully. So he'll be meeting with y'all where you can let next week early, before we drop the bill, to get your input to go over this. I met with Leader Abrams on the tax credit bill, and her comment was, I like it, because I was finding that many of my Democrat brothers and sisters were afraid to sign it because they didn't know what it was. And she said, I won't sign it, but said, because I want the transparency put in there. So we're taking that, the tax credit. You signed it, and I'm proud of you, and I appreciate it. You signed it, Valencia. But what we're doing, we're taking that out and making it very transparent. And she said she would speak for it. You know, she would then support it. So, but want y'all to meet with us. So we'll cover that at that meeting too from your group, because we want this to realize this committee is not partisan. This education is not a partisan issue. It is nonpartisan. Our children don't fall as Republicans or Democrats. They fall as learners, and we want to do that. So, all right. Anything else you have? Look in your folder. State Board of Education. I'd like for everybody to attend this. You've got a handout. Says on behalf of Mike Royal, on February the 22nd, 4 to 5, in Twin Towers, they will host a reception. These are very informative. This is where we've probably got the best working relationship we have ever had with the State Board of Education and department. So we'll encourage everyone to attend. Next Tuesday, look in your folder. There is the handout for next Tuesday. That's in your folder. Look at that. That'll be that meeting will be at 5 o'clock. And so look at that. Take it with you. Take those 2 handouts with you. Check the committee list. If it's not right, let us know. And is there anything else we need to say? Any questions? Anybody has anything else? Rise up. All right, rise up. That's right. Let's go. All right. This is the best attendance I've ever seen. So thank you. We're adjourned, and have a great weekend. Thank you. Go Falcons. Thank you. Hey.